Welcome to another episode of the Modern Facilities Management Podcast, brought to you by FlowPath. I'm your host, Griffin Hamilton. This is the show where I interview industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights into modern-day facilities management. From hospitality to commercial real estate and everything in between, we'll learn what it really takes to succeed as a facilities manager. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Facilities Management Podcast. Today, I am pleased to have Mayra Portalatin join us. Mayra, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Yourself?
You know, I'm doing well. Even better after I pronounced your last name correctly, after a couple of attempts offline. So I'm smirking over here. But thanks again for joining the show here this morning. Why don't you tell us and the audience a little bit more about yourself and what it is you do?
So NVE, we're a federal contractor, if you will. We manage facilities for federal agencies. So I have teams throughout a number of buildings in the DC metro area and other areas in the United States that just make sure that preventative maintenance is happening. They're answering service calls. We try and make sure that they can stay on mission, and that's really what we're there to do, so that we're in the background working so that they don't have to worry about their buildings.
So you guys would fall under the integrated facilities management model. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Very cool. So tell me about your story. So you didn't just wake up one day and start working at NVE as a VP in facilities. How did you get into facilities management? What twists and turns along your career path got you to where you're at right now?
So it's very interesting because, especially when you ask anyone in my age range, how did you get into facilities? It never started with, well, I started in facilities. We all started somewhere completely different. My background is actually in civil and environmental engineering. I have a bachelor's from the University of Michigan, go Blue. Shortly after graduating, I took a position in environmental consulting. So for many years, I was doing environmental consulting. Again, it's facilities related, but it was a different take on what's happening with facilities. It's making sure that we're doing assessments for environmental health and safety, asbestos, lead, indoor air quality, all those kinds of things. After 7 years doing that, my husband changed careers, and we moved from California all the way to DC area, and so it gave me an opportunity to kind of evaluate what do I want to do? Do I want to continue to do this or not? And I was actually taking some training to keep up with my environmental licenses when when you do those regular introductions, when you're in the training, it's like, I'm so-and-so and I work here. And so I introduced myself as and I just moved here, so I am currently looking for a job. And immediately, 3 people were like, I walked out of there with 3 interviews.
No kidding.
So again, training, very important. You never know what you're gonna land on, and it was very.
What a teaser! What a teaser!
And it was very interesting because all 3 companies were different, and they all had an opportunity for me to continue doing what I was doing, but one of them in particular had the opportunity for me to, yes, do what I was doing, but more, and take a little bit of my engineering background and get more into the facility side. So I got into facilities management consulting. I started working for Facility Engineering Associates, FEA. Some folks may recognize that in that name in the industry. And I've worked there for 14 years doing consulting, anywhere from engineering investigations to, hey, what's going on with this building? What's wrong with it? To doing facility condition assessments or just strategic analysis of, what's happening in your facility, how can we do things better, creation of plans, all sorts of things. And a few years back, I got approached by NVE about like, hey, what do you think about taking this that you've been preaching and actually put it to use? And it just came at a really great time, and it was a challenge of actually kind of like they said, it's like, hey, preach, practicing what I was preaching.
Right.
And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, building this facilities program uh, with what I've learned over the years. And it's been a very interesting ride. I can finally understand some of the challenges of facilities when I would find out that they were maybe not able to do the things that I was recommending, right? It
Right.
always turns out to be about funding and ability, or not enough staff to do what they want to do. So it was an eye opener, but it was helpful for me because then it helped me kind of adjust the way that we were doing things and
Yeah.
move forward.
We could talk all day about the constraints in facilities management, and
Mhm.
it's funny with your background, and I love that because it is everyone has their own unique path, and getting into facilities management, it's not like a doctor where it is a playbook on here's exactly what you do to get into facilities management. I've talked to countless people that just kind of fell into it, and they just took
Mhm.
more and more responsibilities on, or they were on the other side of things, and then they got more involved in the facility side, and so getting into it, everyone always has their own unique path, and I think that is still applicable today. But we've talked about this before, but having different organizations now that are kind of defining ways to get into facilities management more intentionally.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to get your thoughts on how that's changed over the years, and how someone that may be, they stumbled across this interview and they're interested in facilities management, but how they could start getting into the actual industry.
So one of the great things is that because of that need for more facility managers, people that were actually, studying, going to school and have the training for it, there are actually more options now for that. There's actually facility management programs. So you can actually have a bachelor's, a master's, even a PhD now in facilities. You have programs like through Brigham Young University, so BYU, which is one of the oldest programs that they had. I think they just celebrated 25 years or something like
Really?
that. I could be wrong on the number, but they just celebrated their program existence. Ferris State
I was going to say Fair State is another one that
is
I keep
another
seeing.
one. Temple University also has as a program, and then there's other universities that have like certificate programs, or where they have courses that help you kind of navigate into the businesses of facilities. Um, in some cases, you have the opportunity through professional organizations to get into the business. Because, so for example, we have trades personnel, electricians, HVAC mechanics, that are aspiring to move up. And one of them was asking me, "Hey, what's my next thing? I'm a master electrician. I have a nice set certification, but I want to be a project manager. I want to be a facility manager. Where do I go?
Hmm.
I want to learn more about facilities." And it's like, well, there's different small courses that you can take in different programs, but if you really want to be serious about going into facility management and becoming a facility manager at some point, you've already built a really great technical background. Now it's a matter of like that managerial and strategic background that you have to build. So the first place that maybe you might want to consider is taking the facilities management professional certificate from IFMA, the International Facility Managers Association. So that would be a great place for you to start, because it takes the four main competencies of facilities management, and it takes you through the coursework. You exam, you end up with an actual certificate that you can say, it's like, hey, I've got the training, I'm on my way there. And that's a really great starter for anyone that, even in after college or during college, that they think, this might be a place where I want to go to. That's a great starter point for you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking to the right person here because you are an instructor within IFMA, correct?
That is correct. So it's very interesting because as a child, when they were there, they would ask me, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I always said teacher. But I
And
went,
here you are.
but I went the STEM route because I also enjoyed the sciences and math and everything, which was great. But being part of this community has also then allowed me to realize that dream of being a teacher by allowing me to become an instructor. I've been able to work in different programs for different universities, teaching facility management related courses. I am an IFMA instructor for the Sustainability Facility Professional, the SFP, and that's all in all very gratifying because even though I am instructing, I'm teaching, I'm also learning a lot because it's that interaction with it's all adult learning, so you're learning from their experiences, the things that worked, that didn't work, and so each and every class I come back with just so much more knowledge than I started with, and it I think that's the most gratifying thing. It's just you get to learn yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue. And we teased it a little earlier, but the perpetual learning that is in facilities management is required. I mean, things are changing. I mean, COVID, good Lord, there were so many regulations that were brought up or changes that were made. And that's not really going to change anytime soon. I think that is a consistent, that there will always be changes. And so talk to me about the importance of, even in the industry, once you're there as a facilities manager, the importance of continuing education.
So one of the most difficult things to answer is what is a facility manager?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Because for the facility manager as a it just keeps getting things added onto it, right? Every 5 years or every decade, it seems like what they add to the list of what does a facility manager do just continues to increase. Event coordination, you know, uh, wellness now. Everybody's like a lot into wellness and providing a healthy environment. Uh, it's the being able to provide different services from copying um, to food. Just there's so many different things, and then depending on where you are in that level, are you on the day to day? Are you more on the strategic side? There's so many things, and then there's the technology aspect of it. As we continue to be a more automated kind of society, I mean, these phones, like we walk around with our phones, and our entire lives are now in these smartphones. We can do just about anything from them, and it if you don't continue to look for opportunities to learn more, you're going to get stuck where you're at. You're not going to be able to advance, or you're not going to be able to provide good service to your organization if you're not to be continue to expand, innovate, and bring in things that are going to help you run the facilities more efficiently, provide better services. And the key here is doing it with less money, and as which unfortunately the facilities budget is usually the one that is the smallest.
Yep. No, and that's where we have to get creative. And I think that is, it goes along with your point of, we only have so many resources and we have to make the most of it. And one of those resources, that's us as a facilities manager. And so going through these certificate programs, furthering your education, like that is important and really needed for your own professional development, but also for the success of the facilities organization.
That is correct.
And I think something else that is key to point out is, you mentioned earlier, just the long list of different points in the job description, if you want to put that in air quotes, of a facilities manager. And it's impossible to expect one person to be an expert in everywhere. So you do have to rely on your network, on different resources, or yourself to pick up these tools or these additional skill sets. And I think what's interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on, but technology and what role technology plays in facilities management and how you could continue to evolve as a facilities manager, learning more about technologies that are out there.
So one of the things that has been happening over the years with facilities is that there is a bigger push for automation. There is a bigger push for making data-driven decisions. You know, all these like computer maintenance management systems, the CMMS, the IWMS, all these, uh, they used to be almost like shelfware, like they put it in and then they weren't really doing very much with the data that was in there. That those days are pretty much over. Facilities, organizations themselves are really starting to focus on getting data that matters so that they can actually make informed decisions on when they're going to be doing a renovation versus an overhaul versus a full replacement, major renovation, whatever the case may be. And it's that information in those systems that's going to help them be able to justify, you know, spending $5 million here, or whether or not, you know what, they have to push that out because there's something more important, and doing things like condition assessments and keeping track of that and how your assets are degrading over the years and what's the prioritization on that. All that, it's all within these systems as long as you are collecting the data, right? And that you are being consistent in the manner that you're, you know, collecting it. And you know, there's you have your internal folks that can help you with a lot of that, but in a lot of cases you do have to engage with other entities in order to help you out. You know, we have good relationships with our building automation system vendors, for example, where we might have them be on site once a week or once a month, depending on, you know, how heavy um, uh, data driven that particular facility might be, like a data center versus an office. You know, there's going to be different needs here, um, and being able to, we work together with them to further tweak. So we might have an electronics technician that's doing things every day on that system, but really relying on those partners with our BAS contractors, for example, to kind of look at that. It's like, is there something that we're missing? Because they see these things every day and they're able to help us tweak things a little bit more than what we're doing, and they can help us maybe write some programs, some rules in there that is going to help us with the alarms that are coming out, how we address them, and get more information. So that's been a very effective partnership for us. Um, but also, you know, in my life as a consultant, some of the things that I did was go into facilities and help them look at the systems and how they were being used. And what did they needed to do to make changes to actually get the data that they needed from those. And there's a number of consultants out there that do that and help out, because sometimes it's too much, too overwhelming, and you don't have the staffing or the time to take care of it. So
Right.
you have to understand your limitations and go out there and ask. And you know, being involved in organizations like IFMA, for example, or BOMI, the Building Owners and Managers Institute, um, it's very important because you create a network of peers that can help you out find those proven resources. That proven Rolodex is what we like to call it, where, hey, I need someone. Last night I was you know, at an event and somebody stopped me from it and was like, hey, I need someone that can help me with asbestos testing. Somebody told me that you were the person to talk to. It's like, yeah, I will forward you some information. I mean, and that's why you want to always be involved, and you get to meet people through training too, and you know, that allow you to form these networks of people that are going through the same things as you. So that's another reason why it's important to keep connected and keep
Yeah.
being educated and establishing those relationships, because even some of these vendors will provide training for your staff. which is great because they want that. They want your staff to know how to work in their systems. And if you do that, if you have that relationship, they know that they're going to have a partner in you for a long haul versus if they just sell you the stuff and kind of walk away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, and you bring up a good point of how it can be overwhelming on the technology that is available. Where do you begin, right? And then when you implement that technology, that's step one, right? Like that isn't just you set it and forget it. There's action that needs to be taken, and so for someone listening, what is the foundation or step one post implementation of any sort of technology? What is front of mind? What should their end goal be for implementing a technology solution?
You have to start with the end in mind. What do you want to get out of the system before you even buy the system?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to get out of it? Because that's what's going to drive the technology that you select. It's going to drive how you set it up, how the processes are set up, what's that flow going to be, who's going to be responsible for that, and then ensure that as it's being set up, reports are being built in to be able to get that data. Because the problem is if you don't start with that, you're never going to get the information that you want out of it. You might get lucky with a few things, but not with others. You
Right.
have to understand what you need in order for it to actually do what you want it to do. And the problem is that a lot of times people go in, they see demos from different systems. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, I like that. And they get enamored by these like small features that are not going to do what they want them to do. And it's a shame because then they pass on some uh, platforms that may have been better suited for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sometimes when engaging a consulting firm as well to help with that decision making. And it's not for them to make a decision for you, but it's maybe them help you kind of like do those pros and cons from everything. And hey, this will do everything, this will do most, this will almost not do anything of what you wanted to do. So that way you have maybe another set of eyes that might not have as much skin in the game, or that might not get taken by some of these like cool little features because at the end of the day it's not providing you what exactly you're looking for.
Yeah, you can't get distracted by the bells and whistles out there. It's got to your point, begin with the end in mind. I love that. You have to understand what the whole purpose is, what's the end goal of implementing this technology, whatever it is, and making sure that that aligns with what you're trying to accomplish there. But that's all great stuff. And I do have one last question I ask everybody. Who or what has had the biggest impact on you in your career?
Oh gosh, you know what, I'm gonna have to say that it's been a couple of people. I think probably first Jim Whitaker. Jim was president, CEO of FEA. He's now working with JLL. I learned a lot from him on facilities, and I was always at awe at how he could just, on a metro ride someplace, just think about something and hand me a piece of paper. I'm like, oh my God, you just came up with this like on a train ride. It was always amazing to just watch him work and how he just got it. So I do give thanks for having him in along my path because I learned so much from him. And then there's Tina Chow's. Tina is an amazing individual, and just to see another woman in the field, which, as you know, in facilities, women are probably not as big represented. Having someone like her out there and how she just lights up a room and how amazing she is. And, everyone is always hung up in every word that she says because she's just an amazing individual. And, I've worked alongside with her in consulting for facilities, and it was always just a pleasure to just see how all those years of running facilities, how she took that and, was helping others, be better. So,
That's great. And I love that you're bringing up multiple people because it is rarely just a single individual. It really does take a lot, and it's cool to see how people respond to that answer or to that question, which I love asking every time, and I never give anyone any prep, just to see that the thoughts. You can see the thought process as I ask it. So it's always interesting and to see where people have influence. So, but again, certainly appreciate you coming on the show here this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. There's going to be some great show notes here that people could reference. But thank you so much for the content. And until next time, be well.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Modern Facilities Management Podcast. Make sure to subscribe for future episodes and follow us on LinkedIn for more facilities management content.